I came out of school, didn't know what I wanted to do, which is a deadly business. So I actually went bush and ended up jackarooing up in Queensland. Took a little 8mm camera with me to film what I was doing up there, send it back to the family. I grew to like it. I looked at this thing and thought, geez, I wonder, could you go around the world filming places that people won't dare to go to or can't afford to or whatever? Maybe I could go and film it and then make a living out of it that way. That sounds pretty good. So I left there, came down and joined the ABC. A year later, I had to spend a year trying to get in. They were pretty tight about who could come in. In the end, I got the job by bugging Bert Nicholas, who was the head of the camera department. I used to ring him. I got a job in the stationery department in the city. And after coming out of 18 months of jackarooing in Queensland, with pretty flat, I ended up in a basement in the city giving out pencils. That was hard, but then I used to ring Bert Nicholas, mainly Bert Nicholas, every week and say, my name's John Seale, and, I was wondering if you had anything over there, and I could come over. And till finally one day, I think he said, give that bloke a job, for God's sake, get him off my back. So that's how I tell people now to get a job in the film industry, just bug somebody until they give you a job to shut you up. A lot of them were ex-World War II combat cameramen, pretty rugged guys, big drinkers, and they were all had a little, I always thought, a little part of filmmaking in them that you could learn from. But the one that stood out for me was Bill Grimmond. He a big, amiable bugger that, but he'd done more feature films really than the others put together. So the ABC gently moved into a 35mm camera. They gently moved into drama work. And it was Bill who was at the fore of that as the cameraman because of his experience. So I found that I got on well with Bill, and I was able to then join him as a clapper loader kind of deal. You just learned on the job, really. All the newsboys had their little tricks of the trade that they learnt, so you learned all that. Oh, the ABC started very tentatively going into 1 hour shows. Then they blossomed out into series. Quite, at the time, very extensive series, actually. And we had a Mitchell R35 camera in a blimp that took 4 of us to lift onto the Worrell Head. Well, there are only 4 in the whole crew anyway, so it took all the whole crew to lift the camera onto the Worrell Head. You sort of, to whack that on the tripod took a bit of effort. You had to have a glass of milk before you lifted that one. So it was rugged work. I mean, we had one on grips, one on electrics. We had a go-between and the director of photography and operator and focus puller. That was it. One of the earliest things I ever did, though, was a thing called Wangina out in Broken Hill with Bill, and he did the operating and the lighting, and I was just focus pulling on it. And then we had one grip, one electrics, and the go-between. And that was the whole camera crew. The whole camera grips electrics crew was something like 5 guys put together this whole series. I love camera operating. I loved it to death. I think it's one of the best jobs on the set. So I concentrated on that. It really was a lot of fun and a lot of challenges. I mean, it still pervades when I muck around now on films. I just think it's one of the most productive jobs. Why are we shooting it from this angle, at this height, at that lens size? Why isn't it over here doing that? Learning all about the editing, continuity, so that you could help the editor make a better film, help continuity, make a smoother film so that the editor could put it together smoothly. So you have this total gambit of challenges, really. My first feature film was Death Cheaters, 16mm blow up, Brian Trenchard Smith directing, Grant Page, Johnny Hargraves as a couple of gadabouts, getting into a lot of bother. And I didn't know what I was doing. I'd been operating for years for these top cameramen like Don McAlpine and Russell Boyd and Richard Wallace and all the boys. But I didn't know what a meter did. That needle wouldn't stop, kept moving. And that worried me a lot. But I got through it. And then I spent the next 3 or 4 movies operating so that I learnt what the meter did. And the next time I was asked to light a film, at least I knew what that meter was trying to do. My favourite film, I'm often asked that, what is my favourite film? And I always say the next one. I've always said that when you accept the script and you go off to make the film, that's going to be the best film you're ever going to make. And you put as much effort into every one of them. It's just the audience, paying audience, decide which ones are more successful than the others. But some of the ones that didn't make a lot of money, I felt were really good films. So in a way it's sad for that, but that's the industry, that's the way it works. If the audience don't pay, then, the film doesn't make a lot of money and people aren't in profit and they don't go and make another movie. So you try and make every one of them profitable, as good as you can, I think the most difficult film that I had to do technically was The Perfect Storm. It was done on film, negative, and it was very wet, and we had to get in amongst it with those cameras and try and waterproof them and make them viable for operators, for focus pullers, to be able to handle it and control them, to record it. And I think technically that was the most daunting one, yeah. But the end results were the best. The ACS was always in the area as I worked my way up through the industry, and it grew to what it is today, a fantastic organisation. But it was very early in the piece. It was always there, humming in the background. I think that nowadays students are very much luckier with organisations like this that are supplying fantastic lectures with known people, successful people.
Do you have any?
But I think it's still real hard to get into the industry, even though this is all available. I think the younger people are still finding, how do you get into the industry, which is small enough to be able to have the people that it needs and can't absorb everybody who wants to get into it. Well, the changes in cameras over my period weren't much. They went from this ginormous camera that we started off in the early days, and they got smaller and smaller and more compact. Really, there was no technical change. We had film negative, a camera and a lens, and you recorded onto that. I think we had a good time with the film cameras, to be honest. But suddenly this technical digital revolution of the last 10 years is pretty awesome as to what they're doing, and it's pretty rapid. I thought the Alexas were fantastic. I didn't have any problem with the quality, and I think that's been proven with something like Fury Road and many, many other films, of course. But I quite liked shooting with the Alexa. I didn't find, for me, presenting the film, it didn't present any problems, as long as you've got a terrific crew with you that understands all those technical parameters of those cameras. They're pretty awesome, You need somebody with a lot of knowledge to bolt them together. There's nothing I would change from if I had to start again when I started back in the 60s. There's nothing I could think of to change at all. I think it's been a fantastic life, and even though one of my neighbours once said it wasn't a proper job, I think it was.